different than normal. And a lot of times, if anything's done wrong in them, it may affect the way the city or anybody else's legal standing is. And because of that, and because we've got two new councilmen that I don't know whether they have been through one of these or not, I'm going to ask that the city attorney run this hearing and that the city attorney explain the variance hearings and the quasi-judicial hearings so we get everything right.
Okay. This is, as the mayor said, this is a quasi-judicial hearing, which under our land development code basically means you must make your decision. You sit as judge and jury. You must make your decision based on the evidence you hear presented before you, and that includes any evidence, the staff report, and any evidence that is submitted into the record. That becomes your record, and that's the basis for which you make your decision today, whatever it is. To begin, we're going to do just Jennings disclosures. Phil and Hector, Jennings disclosures are ex parte communications you've had. So we'll go one by one down the council and have you disclose any communications you've had with anybody about this proceeding, whether for or against. Also on that note, if you have received any communications, any emails from any person about this item, if you could just forward them to Joe so that they get it to the record as well. John, if you want to start.
I have spoken with Mr. Leonard and Mr. Gisbert of our staff about this matter.
Okay. Phil?
I know where the property is and where the sign was, and I have spoken with Mr. Leonard.
Okay.
I spoke to our city attorney, no one else.
Okay.
I know where the property is, and I know all about signs.
But you've spoken with no one about this.
I spoke to you, I believe, about 4 to 5 weeks ago when it was first come up and was going to be delayed, and then I did speak to Mr. Sales also, the other city attorney.
Okay, perfect. All right, this will be a somewhat informal hearing. You, the council members, will have the opportunity to ask questions of anybody during their presentation. We will swear witnesses, those who are giving testimony today. Whatever your decision is, it will be reduced to writing. Our code requires that you make a written order. That will come back at the next council meeting, the next regular council meeting, not the one that happens at 2 o'clock. And it will not be a basis for you, an opportunity for you to sort of re-argue the point. It's just to confirm the evidence on which your decision was made. So that order will come within the next 30 days, assuming you make a decision today. At the conclusion of this hearing, if you don't feel like you have sufficient evidence, you want to subpoena more witnesses, you want to just take more time to think about it, you certainly can and continue this hearing to a date certain. But if you have all the information you think you need, you can make your decision at the conclusion of today's hearing. All right. This is a hearing concerning the request filed by Lamar Advertising to increase by 13 feet the height of a replacement off-premises sign to allow an off-premises sign to be located 84 feet from a residentially zoned parcel. The land which is subject to this variance is located at 1305 Panama City Beach Parkway, the intersection of Dogwood Road. The purpose of this hearing is to provide a proceeding where the person requesting approval of this variance and any other interested parties may present their case in support of or in opposition to the application at issue. We could, those who will be giving testimony, if you'll stand and be sworn. You raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today is the truth and nothing but the truth? All right. Thanks. I will briefly just frame the issue up for you, and then Mel will get to a staff report, and then we'll invite Lamar up to make their case. There are two variances being requested of you. One is a height variance. This is something that is expressly contemplated by our code. If you make the finding that a literal enforcement of the height limitation would result in an unnecessary hardship on the owner of the replacement sign or the owners of property adjoining the replacement sign. That is something that's the code expressly contemplates. The second one, what I'm calling the placement variance, they're asking that this sign be located nearer to the residential area than what your sign code allows. Your sign code says any off-premises sign needs to be located 125 feet distant. This one is 84 feet. That variance is not something our sign code contemplates. So to be eligible for the variance, the standard for that, you need to hear evidence, or you need to make your own findings based on what you know of the neighborhood and what they tell you about the sign to be presented, about what's unique about the relationship of this particular sign to this particular residential neighborhood that warrants a variance or reduction of the 125-foot limitation down to 84. Okay, so those are your standards. Do you have any questions about that before we go? Yes, sir.
Is this a place where I would ask, you're requesting a height variance, how much higher are they, or lower are they requesting it?
They're asking for a 13-foot height increase.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No?
One, if I understand correctly, if I remember correctly, before you can give a variance, you have to show that there is uniqueness about this that causes the need for it.
You have to show a
No matter
hardship.
which standard it is.
Any variance requires a hardship.
Right.
The particular hardship with regard to the height will be a literal, like a site limitation for the owner of the
Okay.
property or joining owners. The unique hardship in the context of the placement will be between the relationship between the sign. What's unique about the relationship of this sign to this neighborhood? What is the hardship that makes that placement different?
Thank you, ma'am.
So,
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The site is generally, of course, it's located across, generally from the Colony Club area. And it's at the current construction site of the Therapy One building. And the sign is to be generally placed over to the side street, 25 feet off the front property line, 5 feet off of the property line at the side street. The old sign used to be located generally in the middle of the property, and it was taken down for the construction of the new building. You've got stormwater and parking, and the sign couldn't go where it was in the past, and that's why there's the request to be moved off to this side but stay on the same property. The old sign was 22 feet in height. The new sign's proposed to be 35 feet in height for a difference of 13 feet, as Mrs. Meyer said. The old sign was 400 square feet in size. Lamar proposes this one to be 378 square feet, reducing by 22 square feet. The old sign was 109 feet from the residential zoning district to the south, and the new distance from the new sign is 84 feet. So it's going to be a little bit closer to the residential with the new sign than the old sign was. The staff report is in your packet, and it indicates that reviewing against the general criteria for all variances, there were 4 that it didn't appear to satisfy. And briefly, that number 1, there's a specific hardship affecting the development of the lot resulting from the strict application of the provisions of the Land Development Code. Number 2, the hardship is not a result of actions of the owner and is not based solely on a desire to reduce development costs. 3, the need for the proposed variance is due to the physical shape, configuration, or topographical condition of the lot in such a manner as to distinguish it from other adjacent or nearby lots or from other lots in the district. And finally, 4, the proposed variance is necessary to preserve a substantial property right where such property right is generally available to other property owners of adjacent or nearby lots or other lots in the district. What the staff report didn't do, which Ms. Myers did before that, is also indicate that there's, because it's an off-premise sign, there's some importance about distinguishing if there's a difference about the separation from the residential district to this sign, and whether there's something unique about this property that isn't shared by other properties throughout the city on that matter alone. Let me see if there's anything that's, just show you one other picture. Of course, there's just more of a picture of the current construction going on with the building. This is a mixture of pictures that staff put together, and then also is in your packet from Lamar, the applicant, who will be up in just a moment. It's pointing to where the old sign was, generally in the center of the property. There's a site, of course, it's zoned commercial, high intensity. And then there's information in your packet, and I won't rehash all that because I imagine that'll be part of their presentation. But Lamar submitted some of the specs on the sign and how it'll be positioned on the property. Oh, and one other thing I wanted to bring up, off-premise signs is also unique in that the variance comes to you directly without the benefit of the planning board recommending it. All the other variances come to the planning board, and then if there's an appeal, it would come to you. But for off-premise signs, you hear it, so the planning board doesn't hear this. There's no recommendation. This is the one and only time that it's going to be heard.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Can you, with the blueprint that's right there, Mel, can you kind of show us, because I'm having trouble distinguishing, where the existing sign was at versus where the new one's at? I just want to make sure.
All right, the old one was in this area,
Uh-huh.
and then the new one is proposed to be generally about in this area.
5 feet off the corner, 25 feet off of the highway.
And back, okay.
Yes, 25 feet off the front property line, 5 feet off the side street.
So the other one was not the 25 foot off the property line then, based on old,
No, I don't think it
Grandpa.
was, right?
Okay, yeah, it was-
So it'll conform, the new one's proposed to conform better than the old one did.
with the exception that
Of
puts
the
us a lot closer
With
to
that,
the
with that
neighborhood.
portion, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all I have for now.
Oh, Claire? Or someone from Lamar? If you'll say your name for the record.
I'm Christy Morgan. I'm the real estate manager at Lamar Advertising. And as you know, this was initiated by a new development for Therapy One. And we are very pro-business. We like to work with our landowners so they can continue their rental income for many, many years. In this scenario, we've already agreed to hopefully keep that coming to Therapy One for the next 40 years. So what we're asking for, as you know, is an increase in the overall height. That would be an additional 13 feet. And we'd like to, in turn, reduce the square footage of the sign faces by 22 square feet. The original sign was located approximately 109 feet from residential. So it was already within the residential spacing requirement, beyond the residential spacing requirement. The new sign would be located exactly 25 feet closer to residential. I can take any questions that you have, and then turn it over to Claire.
I take it that, once again, that sign that was there initially, how long had that sign been there in the position it was at?
Decades.
Decade. So I take it was before we drafted a new.
Grandfathered in.
It was grandfathered in, but it was
Correct.
done prior to the new regulations as far as signs.
And
Yes,
we
sir.
do have an ordinance for replacement in the same location at the same site. So they would have been allowed.
To put it back in
to
the
put it
same
back in the
exact
same-
spot.
yeah, if that's what had been done at the time.
And I take it the reason they can't go back in the same exact spot is the configuration of the new building that's going in place. It would have obstructed the new real estate venture that was
Correct.
taking place.
Correct, and we read the code saying that, we do feel that we have the right to rebuild on the same property, but with this development, obviously, we do need to scoot over just a little bit to the east.
But if I understand the rules that we're working under, a hardship has to be shown. And the hardship is where I'm having a problem understanding, why did you decide on this piece of property?
Well, it is the same property that we were at before, and that we've had established the location, and a great relationship with the landowner.
But that's the part I'm talking about. You knew going into this that it was non-conforming, the sign was. When the drawings were done and when everything was done, when you going into this, what the conflict was going to be. And we wait and get to this point and ask for a variance. And to me, it almost looks like the hardship was created by trying to stay on the same piece of property that was.
We did talk about another property with Mr. Leonard, the neighboring property just to the east, across the street from Dogwood. And that one was even closer to residential. So we
I
said, okay, let's
understand,
look
but
at
when
this
you look
again.
at the whole corridor up and down the Back Beach Road, I don't know whether lot placement hasn't created a problem rather than the lot itself. I'm trying to make sure I'm right, because we can't grant a variance if there's not a hardship.
Yes, sir. To the west of this particular board, we are spaced out on spacing issues, so we could not move the board to the west at all. To the east, we're actually opening up the spacing issues even more from where the current board stood. So it's actually giving you more space in between the signs. We could not move to the next property because of landowner issues and other issues as such. We could not move to the west either due to spacing
To
all the
another
way
sign.
to
Sure.
another sign. Where we were stuck on that one piece of
I
property.
understand that. No, I don't understand that as being the case, though. I think you're, and this is where I may be wrong about the rules. Under the grandfather, and you have the right to replace the cap and replace, I believe, back when I was involved in this before, gives you the right to replace that sign. But it doesn't necessarily give you the right to replace it right there. Is that correct?
On,
It's anywhere in the city.
That's what I'm talking about. And I don't know that,
the ordinance does agree that we could replace it on the same piece of property.
it does, if
Yes.
there's room,
Yes.
without a variance.
Right.
But you can replace it anywhere in the city.
We are trying to find a location on Back Beach Road to give us the exact same DEC count, the exact same value of that board of what it was, and we cannot find another location on Back Beach Road that we can actually put a sign on. From our extensive research, this is one of the last pieces of property on Back Beach Road that we were able to do that. So therefore,
But
that is our hardship. We can't replace it on the same corridor.
Sure.
With that said, so we were like, we were gonna put it on the same piece of property. After months and months of discussion, then it was brought before us, when you need to, put in a variance for it. The variance was not put in immediately because we thought we might could work it out. So then we were advised we should probably put in the variance, which we did. But the hardship is there's no other way to put it on Back Beach Road.
And the lost sign, the cap and replace ordinance that you're referring to, that's not what we feel like is applicable here. We're looking at 5.07.06, Section E, that we have the right to rebuild on that property. So we want to rebuild on that property per that
Ma'am.
section.
I would agree that you have the right to build on that property. But if it was just period after that, it would mean you wouldn't need a variance.
Correct.
You still have to meet the rules to be able to build on that property.
Correct.
And, isn't that right, Mel?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right,
And-
and if we were to rebuild the same sign on that property in the same exact spot, then the hardship would be, we would be blocking the view of the new building.
Right, and see, that leads back to the part, though, as far as that there should be a hardship. The hardship in this case was actually created when the property owner decided, I have more value in building out my piece of property and I can make more income. And so the hardship that was created for you all was based on the building of a new building, not anything else that's created this hardship. So it was a self-imposed hardship that's being created here because the owner of the property would like to go ahead and take advantage of not only that, but if I can have my cake and eat it too and put a sign, then I can get double income. Unfortunately, I don't see it that's the way it works. You know, what I then see is that the hardship that becomes created when we do move that sign and raise that sign is the fact that you have residential homes very close with the lighting that's going to project upon them. You know, and I'm like Mr. Thomas in that it seems like the hardship was created because they decided to use the land in a different way, make more use of the land, and now it's caused a situation with the sign. That's
Claire, can you state your name for the record?
Name for the record, Claire Sherman, General Manager, Lamar Advertising. What other questions or what discussion that we can answer this time?
I don't think we will.
The increase of the height is basically what we're talking about. Is that it, or is it the movement of it? Why do we need to increase the height of it?
The ground clearance was only 11 feet. In order to keep the
It was blocking the building.
Right.
Uniformity as well, you know, within the city, the average billboard is 35 feet overall. So to keep that uniformity as well, to raise it up, have more ground clearance, so everything can be seen underneath the board. And we would also be going from 5 I-beam poles to 1 galvanized steel monopole. It would be up to code, all that good stuff. So that's what we're asking for, is to replace our sign, not only as it was, exactly as it was, but better, just in our opinion.
Thank you.
Is that, Mr. Chairman, is that lot behind the property we're discussing, is that zone commercial or
It's residential,
residential?
yeah. There's two,
And that's the one that we were spaced beyond the requirement
yeah,
Okay,
two lots.
before.
right, thank you. So, may I ask, what do you think your hardship is?
As I said, the hardship that we've got was, as he correctly pointed out, was that the landowner wanted to develop the property. And so we wanted to be business friendly with the landowner that we had doing business with for decades. So we contemplated moving forward. There's no other place on Back Beach Road within county or city on Back Beach Road that is open right now, placing up a billboard. To keep that particular billboard, our only other option was to request a variance to move it 25 feet. And that's it. In order to maintain that. That's it. To be honest with you. I mean, I understand that it's a height issue, and I understand that we are 25 feet closer to a residential area, but it is the only location that we can identify.
What is your backup plan if you don't get this variance? May I ask?
We don't have one, there's no other place to move it. It would not ever be a digital board, it would always be a back-to-back static. So there's no potential of it ever being created into a digital or converted into a digital. But frankly, we don't have it, we would lose the sign completely. It would actually go into the bank, that we've got, and,
And we have like a year to.
and then in the future, if we did find another location, but it would be on a substandard road, to be honest with you. Our income on a particular board on that beach road, obviously, you know, location, is a lot higher than anywhere else, to be honest with you. So I think that's, we don't have any other locations truly of that caliber.
Thank you.
I would hope that you would also be sensitive to the fact that it's a dangerous precedence also. If there's not a true hardship that is shown that wasn't self-inflicted, it then puts us at a situation where anybody could request that variance to be closer in, and we would have a hard time not granting other variances if we can't identify that a true hardship really has been made here. And it puts us on a slippery slope once we start granting variances without a true hardship. So that's why it's so difficult here, because this can have further implications, very serious further implications.
As far as the lighting to the residential, the lightings, all go off at midnight. They all shine up, they do not shine down. The lights do not shine down, they shine up. They do not shine to the left or to the right. There is only one LED on that board, LED light on the board on each side.
We don't feel that the lighting would change from what it was before because of the wooded area in that residential lot.
But the increased height should have an impact though, because once again, it's 13 foot higher. So there would be more of a lit up. I've been in that situation where I'm close to a sign and being able to see that, the glow of a sign.
Kind of like a full
So
moon.
once you raise up, it's just that shine is in a higher area, so it's easier. I imagine it probably then tops a lot of these trees with the increased elevation. But like I said, I think the biggest thing is actually just the fact that whether a hardship is actually truly being shown is, to me, the biggest threshold that we're dealing with here.
What's the distance between signs that you have to have? You were saying
It's required 1,500 feet.
between signs.
Yes,
I
ma'am.
mean, we've got like a plethora of billboards on Back Beach Road. That's not enough? That we already have? I guess that's what I'm saying, is that there's so many already.
Well, it's like any business. I mean, any business would like, any business model at all wants to stay in business. I know the FDOT's taking boards down left and right. We're probably on the verge of the last 24 months, we've probably lost about 15 boards. So we're doing everything we can to stay in business, to keep afloat, and to keep those boards up.
What's the 6 laning gonna do?
We are talking, and
Hopefully hold more traffic.
hopefully it will hold more
I know, just
traffic.
more, yeah.
But I mean, you want more clothes to clean and I want to sell more hamburgers. I understand what they're doing. It's business and that's not a cuss word.
I can answer that. For the last year, I've been working with the FDOT and the city of Panama City and Bay County on 390. You're probably familiar with that. It's affecting 22 of our signs. And so I have been required to find new homes for all of those signs. And it has been a challenge, to say the least. If I cannot find a home for a new sign, then the FDOT has, either the FDOT or the local municipality is required to pay total taking. So,
On FDOT widening projects.
yes. So that's
Well, that wouldn't
taxpayers'
be us,
dollars
would
that
it?
we don't want to take.
No.
We want to keep our signs in the ground.
No,
So we would
the
prefer to
DOT.
find a new home versus taking the taxpayers' dollars.
So you've not done a study on what the 6 laning of Back Beach Road would do?
Not yet, we're not
We're
there.
waiting for FDOT
We're not
to
there
come
yet.
out with that.
It's so early. I hope it's not anywhere nearly like what it is on 390. It'll put me in the grave.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any member of the public who would like to speak for or against this application? Mel, did you receive any public comment in response to our letters?
Letters went out within 150 feet of the properties required by the Land Development Code, and we received no phone calls, no emails, one way or the other on it,
Okay.
from anybody.
And in addition to letters, notice of this public hearing was published in the News Herald at the beginning of the month. Okay, so now it's time for your deliberation based on the comments you've heard.
Does anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to, deny the variance? Is that what the right verbiage?
If you want to deny it.
Yeah,
We've
well, I
got-
want to be real careful about how I use that,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the whole make a motion to.
Well, we have 2 variances at issue, the height and the placement. If you're inclined to deny both, that's easily enough done. If you were inclined to approve the height, say, it would ultimately come to nothing if you didn't also approve the placement variance. So if you
So I need to make a motion to deny both.
deny both or to handle them separately, so you can take them one at a time.
I make a motion to deny them both,
Okay.
the variance.
Got a motion to deny both variances. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Dee, call the roll, please.
Councilman Riekert,
Yes.
Councilman Chester,
Yes.
Councilwoman Strange,
Yes.
Councilman Solis,
Yes.
Mayor Thomas.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, that concludes this hearing, unless you have anything further you'd like to discuss. I'll reduce it to an order. You'll be able to consider it at your next meeting and confirm if the findings of fact are correct. And that order will be available for you to do whatever you need to with it.
Thank you very much, and this meeting stands adjourned. We have our regular council meeting in 30 minutes, 2 o'clock.
Hector, this is the one thing I wanted to tell you beforehand. As to the view.